Alrighty, so the first thing you want to do is take your 2 even sticks and roll out a small slab. So this is a 1/4 inch, but if you have some that are slightly thicker, that's actually better for this. You want it to be a little on the thicker side so that it holds up to the pressure of juicing. Alright, roll it out. Next, you'll need a circle from this slab to cut out the drape mold that you're going to use. I found this Tupperware in the studio, so I'll use this to trace my circle, and then I'll actually drape it over the side. So you can use any kind of bowl shape for this project. The bottom part of the juicer will be a small drape mold. Now, if the mold that you're using is made of plastic, then you'll want to separate the clay from the plastic because it will stick. So anything that's plastic or glass, you'll use plastic to separate it. So this is just a sheet of thin plastic. A shopping bag will work fine. If you have a mold that's made of wood or of clay that hasn't been glazed, then you don't need the plastic, but we need it because otherwise it will stick. So I'm gently pressing down. I can use my sponge and a little water to smooth the edge and kind of help press things down evenly. Okay. And I'm going to use my needle tool to scratch around the edge here to create a little foot ring. This is optional, you don't need a foot ring on your piece if you don't want. Add a little slip. Then to make sure this is flat and nice and even, you can use a board or a book or something. I have this little flat tile, so I'm just gonna lightly press down. The top. And then we'll put this off to the side to firm up to kind of like a soft leather hard. As long as it's holding its shape, it should be good to go. And for the second part, we're making a pinch pot, but we want the bottom, or in this case the top, to be kind of pointy and tapered. So use your thumb, push into the center, and then slowly rotate around, pinching a little at a time to create an opening. And we want to leave it pretty thick because we'll be carving into it, and you'll be eventually, once it's functional, putting a lot of pressure on this part of the piece. So I'm just rotating, pinching nice and slow, and try your best to make sure that this edge is level because that's what we'll be attaching to the base. And then kind of shape it and try to get a nice tapered top. So I just have it on the table and I'm kind of pressing in to get a pointed area on the top. So now we have these 2 pieces. The base needs to dry to a soft leather hard, and this part can dry to a slightly firmer leather hard, but you'll want to put them aside for a couple hours or wrap it lightly and leave it overnight and then come back to it the next day. So I have these that I've popped off the mold, and they've been drying a little bit. So you can see this is firm enough to hold its shape, but still a little bit flexible. So What I'm going to do is, before this dries out anymore, I want to create where I'll be pouring. So I'm really firmly and carefully pressing and pushing in one edge of my base so that I have a little spout to pour juice out of. And this is a little on the firmer side, but I was still able to bend it. Just make sure you're really holding and pushing gradually so you don't push the clay past its limits. And now we can clean up this bottom edge a little bit. So I'll use my sponge to smooth over any weird textures on the inside. If you have any really prominent ridges, you can use a rib as well to smooth. Mine's pretty smooth, so I don't feel like I need to, but you can just go like that. Cool. For the top edge, you can use a rib and scrape and shape the clay to make a nice tapered edge so it's not quite as boxy, but you don't need to. You can also use a rasp. Gets the job done a little bit quicker. For this part, we'll need to create the ridges that go into the juicer. So I'll just plan out where I'm going to put them with my needle tool. And then use any kind of loop carving tool to carve out these areas and create ridges. If you don't have one of these tools, oh, mine broke, of course. If you don't have one of these tools, you can use a thinner paper clip that you bend. Alright, so we're going to attach this part to the base. If your bottom edge here is not flat and level, then you'll want to level it out with your rasp tool. But if it is, you can go ahead and attach it. So we'll want to create an opening on this part that's about this width. So to do that, I'll use my paintbrush, take a little bit of slip, and before I even do any scratching or anything, I'll put it on the bottom edge. I'm just using it as kind of a stamp to show me where I'll be attaching it. Some extra water. And I'll line it up on the bottom. Press down slightly, but then lift it back up. So now I can see it kind of left a ring there where I'll be attaching it, and that will give me some guidance when I'm scratching and slipping. So it's going to go outside that circle. But I'm going to cut a hole here so that there isn't a hollow area of air trapped inside. I'm using my X-Acto knife tool, and I'm just going to cut around that circle that I just traced. And this is going to sit right around it. So now I'll take my needle tool, scratch and slip around that opening, as well as on the bottom of the top of the juicer. And both of these parts are leather hard at this point, so you'll want to scratch pretty deeply and add slip to both sides. Use your paintbrush to smooth over the seam where it's been attached. And also on the bottom so you can see all that slip. that over. All right, there we go. We've got a juicer.